And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Chattanooga baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and very proudly presented by Motley Rice, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at stokesbw.com. Make sure you've downloaded our app. It's free. Download it. Why have you not downloaded it? Download the app. It's free. You can watch our show. You can listen to our show. You can comment. You can check out our top prospects like my man, Jamie Richardson, with Palmetto Group Insurance. We all need insurance, but you need an insurance guy, right? You don't just need insurance. You need an insurance guy. You got to call your insurance guy. That's how I have always referenced it. I don't know. Call the insurance guy. That's Jamie. He's the insurance guy. He's fantastic. Palmetto Group Insurance. Find him right there in the app in our top prospects section. And they are proud partners of our program and presenting our program in part today, which who knows what we'll talk about. Find us on social media at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB and at Darren at Goldwater. The share healthcare chat line's already long. Yep, figured that. So we'll get there in just a little bit. New guest alert today, 12:30. Gene Henley will join us on our program. He is with Chattanooga Times Free Press. He's going to tell us all there is to know about Lamont Paris, the new head basketball coach for the South Carolina Gamecocks. Not officially released by the university just yet, but he is all but this is all but done. Let's just put it that way. And that will be the new leader for Carolina Hoops. And hopefully sometime in the future, Darren, we'll be able to get him on our program. I imagine he's a little busy right now. Keith Allsep will join us at 1:20 today as well, host of the Locked On The Gamecocks podcast. And we will kind of wind our way through the search and certainly talk about the future of the program under Lamont Paris. There's baseball going on tonight. Gamecocks probably on upset alert down here in the Low Country. The Dogs ready to sick them. We'll see what happens over at Riley Park. That's not the only game ongoing today, though. Interesting game in the upstate, by the way. Wofford at USC upstate. Charleston Southern's at Mercer. Mercer's good. Coastal is at Clemson. Good one there. College of Charleston at Georgia Southern. These are all really good midweek matchups with some regional teams. So we got some stuff there. We got some golf to get to. My prediction on Phil was right. Yeah. And much more. The Sweet 16 is set for the ladies as well. There's a border battle coming up on Friday night, Darren. But good afternoon. And Lamont Paris, new guy for the Gamecocks.
Well, hat tip to you for the Mickelson thing. You are, as far as I know, the only person that I know that had that one right. Everyone else I know, me included, no shot Phil misses the Masters. The question is, did Phil pull out of the Masters or did the Masters pull Phil out of the Masters? But we can talk about that another time because I don't know if that's really the top story down here. So I spent a long time in the SoCon, right? I still have lots of contacts in and around the SoCon. Gene is one of the favorite guys I ran across once, twice, 3 times a year when I was in and around the SoCon. He was on the Mocs beat then, was on the Vols beat for a while. Now he's back on the Mocs beat and has been for a while. He was the first guy I reached out to when this looked like it was going to happen. And my only question was, tell me about it. Is he a good guy, right? I mean, we'll figure out if anyone, whoever it is, can coach. Is he a good guy? And from that point forward, every conversation I had, him and otherwise, A resounding yes there. He is a really good guy. And I'm going to just throw one thing out that most people, I don't think, realize, because there's a lot of talk about Wisconsin and Guard and Ryan and his past. When he was with Akron, Keith Dambrot was his head coach. Dambrot was LeBron's coach in high school, and LeBron basically credits him for a lot of his success, and he, Dambrot, credits LeBron for saving his career. So there are deep, deep ties in the basketball world that Lamont Paris does have his fingers on.
Yeah, it is. And that is definitely something we're about to discuss a lot of here. I will absolutely, Darren, utilize Gene Henley for all of us to educate ourselves on Lamont Paris. Lamont Paris. I'm sorry, Coach. We need to know about this guy and what his program is like. Look, I want to get some specifics from Gene.
Mm-hmm.
Offensively, what do they do? What do they look like? How's he recruit? Defensively, what do they do? What does he look like? How do they recruit? Do guys want to work for him? What type of coach is he? As far as managing game, all the things that if you haven't been a big fan of Chattanooga basketball, you probably don't know a lot about. As a matter of fact, we don't really know a lot about any of that with any of the candidates that were in the running to get the job, because we never really do. There's always multiple reasons why we pull for a candidate over another candidate, but rarely do you get the guy, Darren, as you well know, that says, well, let me tell you what, this guy's the best candidate because of blank, 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 with all of the stuff that really matters, which is why are they successful on the field or on the floor?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody really ever has that information, okay? And your job is to, as an AD or an administration or whoever's hiring, to get through all that and hope you get it right when you do. And how does that transition to your job and those type things? So I'm not saying anybody's wrong for having an opinion. Don't misunderstand me. I'm just saying we all have surface arguments about who is best for what job. And generally, most of those conversations lack substance. So we're going to ask Gene Henley for substance today. That's the point of him being here, so we can get deep in my opinion, on Lamont Paris.
The basics on how he constructed Chattanooga are pretty much out there at this point, and they're all spot on. In his first 2 years, they didn't have a whole lot of success, and then he changed his philosophy and he went hard into the portal and turned things around in the last 3 years. They were 1 second less away from not having gone to the NCAA tournament this year. I don't know if that really would have changed anything for him or for Richie, but 7 of his top 8 guys were portal guys. So what he showed at Chattanooga is that he can go to the portal. One of whom was from Kansas, by the way, and was an impact player, although not the player of the year in the Southern Conference. He has shown he can go into the portal and get guys. He has not yet shown he can successfully recruit this region. That's not saying he can't, but that's not necessarily part of his resume yet at this point. So moving forward, what type of blend do we see? Chris Dortch tweeted out earlier today. Derek Scott retweeted it as well. And if you're unfamiliar with who he is, he's the Phil Steele of basketball. He puts out the Blue Ribbon Report, which is one of the Bibles for anyone who covers basketball. And Dortch, I didn't realize, is a teacher, a professor of some sort at Chattanooga, has gotten to know Paris and put out a nice little complimentary tweet about him. Gotten to know him. Yes, he had success in the portal here, understands that at South Carolina he'll need to blend those two, and he'll need to have success recruiting as well. That's the big thing. Tied with what type of support is he going to get? Will's comment here in the Share Healthcare chat room, I like a lot. Paris is walking into a tough situation because of how the search went down and because of the mixed reactions. So he's coming into a situation where he has to win them over. He's, instead of being given the benefit of the doubt, he's coming in to a tough spot, having to win over some of the fan base. And the administration better give him a boatload of support to do that.
Yeah, assistant coaches will be key here. Brian Steele, for those that maybe didn't understand, part of his role at South Carolina was mining this state for talent. Keep in mind, Brian Steele under Frank Martin was a fairly new assistant coach, so it takes time to establish some of the relationships that he had established while on staff for the Gamecocks. And you're going to need a guy in that type role for Lamont Paris as well. This state and surrounding areas, you pointed out, Darren, a couple of times over the weeks, has a lot of talent. And it's twofold. We're going to get to his resume, by the way, in just a moment, but it's twofold as to why you recruit freshman talent. One, you need to have some type of base for building your program. You can't just rely on the transfer portal, but you have got to know how to navigate the transfer portal. As you have already pointed out, he knows how to do, and he knows how to do it excellent. But the other part of mining young players, high school kids that you want to build your program through is, okay, if you don't land them, that's one thing, but you need to know who they are because of that thing we just mentioned, the transfer portal. If they pop their name back in there, they decide they want to come back closer to home. You don't want to go try to reach out to a dude who's from a couple of hours away from where you play basketball and you never recruited him. That can't happen. So there's a lot of moving parts into being a coach and recruiting and those things, and we're going to learn a lot about Lamont Paris starting today and moving forward. Before we get to the Share Healthcare chat lines and bring a bunch of your comments in, we do have our post-up careers Lamont Paris resume to show all of you as well. For those that are listening, we'll read some of this off to you, but as you pointed out, he was at Wisconsin under a glorious run. They finished national runners-up when he was there in 2015. They made the Final Four the year prior in 2014, a part of multiple Sweet 16s. He was a part of some success at Akron when they made the dance. They made a couple of NITs. They won the MAC at Akron. Prior to that, a two-time NCAA Division II tournament with IUP. He was in the Final Four 2002 in D2, D3 NCAA tournament at Worcester. That's where he played. I believe he's originally from Ohio. And then Darren, back to his resume as a head coach, 27-8, the regular season and tournament title. He won both this year with Chattanooga. He was the SoCon Coach of the Year as voted on, which I think is most important by the coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And Malachi Smith was named the SoCon Player of the Year. This all just happened in 2022. And as you already pointed out as well, 7 of those top 8 players in the rotation are from the transfer portal. 87 and 72 in his career. And I want to let's be fair here, because there is, although it is correct information that is floating around out there about his overall record, let's also clear it up as to how that has unfolded. I've seen a lot of, we hired a guy who's won 84 games, or he's got a losing record in conference play in the SoCon. Yeah, I know. We know that. Let's read let's read what happened. He took over in 2017. They went 10-23, 3-15. And then the next year, 12-20, 7-11. And then 20-13, 10-8. And then 18-8, 9-7. And then 24-7, 14-14. There has been a gradual rise at Chattanooga. Okay. The overall record is one thing. I mean, it's the same exact thing Darren is saying. Well, my overall record is 40-30. And you go, that's horrible. And I say, well, I was 0-30, but I won my last 40 games. A little bit of a difference there. Looks like, so you got to put some context behind some of these numbers. All right. So squash that argument if you hear it around the bar tonight. Look, he's a guy, Darren, as far as how this kind of played out, some of the criticism that he's getting, or I would say most of it, I'm not going to speak for anybody. Okay. You say whatever you want to say. You're right. Say whatever you want. I think, though, that it's more of a gut feel in response to how the search unfolded as opposed to who they landed on. Okay. Now, we all believe, based on the way that this is stretched out, right? My understanding of this, Darren, is that this is probably the 3rd or 4th candidate in line. That's the way it looks. Is it 3rd? Is it 4th? Is it I don't know, but it doesn't seem like it was 1 or 2 based on reporting by the people we talk to every day. Okay. So, and then you see that Sean Miller leveraged South Carolina to go back to Xavier. You see Matt McMahon, by accounts, met with the administration, but chose a program who could be squashed by the NCAA soon with NCAA sanctions. We don't know, but there is uncertainty down there. Bob Ritchie pulls his name out. So you have an optics issue, all right, on the outside, and people see that. And it's almost like it hurts your feelings. And it's, well, we just settled on this guy. I say all that to say this. If we hadn't heard a peep, and by the way, this hasn't been going on a month, okay? This has been going on a week. I mean, they just fired Frank Martin. If we had not heard a peep, Darren, there wasn't a reporter out there that had any information, nobody, nothing, never heard a name, and all of a sudden it's, well, we've hired Lamont Paris from Chattanooga. There's absolutely going to be some people looking around going, they hired who? I get that. But what there wouldn't be is this outrage because of what they didn't hire. So the process, the optics, I think, have influenced the response. But at the end of the day, it is going to be Lamont Paris.
It's hard. So here's a question in the chat room from Don. Can someone explain why this is being described as a disaster? Because Don just doesn't see it that way. Yeah. So if you skimp everything off the top and say, listen, as Sapikov said yesterday, I don't mind taking a few big swings here, because what's wrong with taking a few big swings? So if you take everything off the top and say you took a couple of big swings and missed, and then you got a guy who hopefully, you would assume you went out and got him, you're happy with, if you're Ray Tanner, that in and of itself, okay, that's kind of how coaching searches go. The problem is all of this was so public, and a lot of things that may be known or kind of known under the surface or thought came just screaming out to the forefront. Those things being, this isn't a great job. Things like he chose LSU McMahon, a program that a lot of folks believe is about to get a 1, if not 2-year postseason ban. And to choose that over South Carolina is another black eye that says something, at least in coaching circles, about the job that South Carolina currently is. You've got Dennis Gates, who you had out there, and the reports on Gates from very insider people are that he pulled his name out and ended up at Missouri as the search was going on. I still haven't gotten to an answer I'm comfortable with Richie yet as to exactly what happened there. But yeah, a lot of bad optics and a lot of bad publicity and a lot of unnecessary laundry that's been aired, and nationally it's rightfully being looked at as somewhat of a joke, because this stuff can't happen. When you're going on these major searches, this stuff can't happen, and it influences other coaches, it influences recruits, it influences everything, because it looks so bad, and it doesn't have to look that bad if you can just keep a lot of it under wraps, and they failed at that bad.
Yeah, they did. Why is that? I mean, it wasn't Coach Tanner who was out telling everybody step by step what was going on that I'm aware of. And I don't think it was. But there was too much info leaking left and right. I know agents leak a lot of info. Okay. I know that. Guys, any school that you don't have to be a Carolina fan, Clemson, Carolina, wherever, a lot of the information you get when there are coaching changes that gets to the national guys, and then some guys who cover your team more on a local level, websites and things like that, a lot of that is agents. A lot of it is agents, actually. And so you got to remember that some of these agents are leaking good information. Some of these agents are leaking information that's going to help their client. You got to figure out a way through that. What is pertinent information? What is it? What's truthful? What isn't? I don't have the answer. I don't know, but I know how it works. Darren, you've been around it a long time. You've had an agent. You know how things go, and so you can't always sew it up. But there are, to be critical of the process, because I do feel like this process deserves some criticism. There are other scenarios all across the country. You don't hear much, and then all of a sudden somebody's hired. So there are ways to keep it quiet. And I don't know. I'm not smart enough to figure out how you do that. But this is kind of where they are. And, I do want to get to some of the Share Healthcare chat lines, because such a large part of what we do is making sure that all of you are a part of our program. You're all our friends. We love all of you, and we hope to buy you all a round of bourbon one day. Clint said the hire doesn't move the needle for me in the least bit. I just don't understand the logic of hiring a guy with a meh record at arguably the best job in the SoCon. Tyler says, I support the hire. I don't know if it'll work or not. Same as all the other geniuses that are so embarrassed and Disappointed. Greg said, keep Frank another year if he was getting GG. Look, I got a lot of information on that, Craig. But Frank's not here anymore. So, yeah, I love you, brother, but, unfortunately the ship has sailed, but I absolutely understand what you're saying. Totally. Chris said, so you'd rather have a guy with no head coaching experience. That doesn't move the needle much for me either. Bill, hey, Bill, coach's first stop should be to the Jackson house and tell him to stay home and be for the South Carolina men's basketball program what Asia Wilson was for the women's program. He should probably pitch a 10 outside the Jackson house. Keith has been a strong supporter of Lamont Paris. Keith Allsep. Okay, Well, we've got him today, so he can certainly discuss that. Adam says, I would have preferred BJ over Lamont. Let's see here. Pierce said, would much rather have BJ at the late time. Think he would be able to keep our local talent at home. Pierce says, no ties to South Carolina and would have been better to keep Frank another year and lock up Gigi. Craig said yesterday, Heath Klein asked Frank if he really thought he was getting Gigi, and he really thought he would. And Frank is not lying there.
No, a lot of people thought that.
Yeah. So, not trying to stall here. I'm just trying to read through this as to kind of.
There's a lot.
Yeah, there is. Thank you. Thank all of you. I really, really do appreciate this. Jamie says dumpster fire, in my opinion. Jamie, what's up, brother? Marion, look at their offensive numbers compared to ours. Look at their offense. Look up the numbers. It's certainly more efficient. I think it's more efficient by like 170 spots or something. It's something crazy.
Yeah, efficiency. Yeah.
Chris says, when you get national guys talking about how your job is not desirable, that's a disaster. So, hey, look, I that is, I think, something that's really, really important. Darren, I mean, I've been around this program for 36 years. This athletics department for 36 years. I would love to be the guy every day that can't wait to hop on the air and tell everybody that we have the best of everything in the world and in the country. You hear that all the time. Every school has the best fans in the country, if you haven't noticed. Every school has the best facilities in the country. Yeah, you hear it from these coaches and stuff all the time. South Carolina has some things that are some of the best in the country. Baseball facilities, the football facilities are outstanding. Gamecock fans are some of the best. There's no doubt. One of the reasons why a lot of this gets so frustrating is because they care so much. One of the things that they don't have one of the best in the country is the basketball program. I'm just going to be blunt. It's just not a good job. It doesn't mean that it can't be a good job. It absolutely can be. It can be a great job. There's support. There's money. There's facilities. There's recruiting grounds. There's some history. You've got a Final Four run 5 years ago. Like, it absolutely can be. If Auburn can be a great job, this can be a great job. Okay? There's no question. But it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a great job. Sometimes we just got to be real with each other. All right. Does it matter if I think it is, Darren? No. Does it matter if you think it is? No. You know who it matters to? It matters to the top tier coaches who are trying to figure out what to do with their careers. And I'll be honest, in this, I think a lot of you will understand what I say when I mean this now. Look back 10 years. Do you know how good of a job it was to get Frank Martin here? Carolina basketball was in a crapper after what had happened under Darren Horn. They were awful. Think about where they're being left by Frank Martin from where they were with Darren Horn. Why the hell would Frank Martin want to come here? Thank God he did, because if not, there wouldn't be that Final Four run. Mm-hmm. There would not. People right now are expecting to land in, I don't know if it's elite, Darren, but a great name in basketball. And the reason is because expectations have been raised. If Frank Martin would have driven the team into the ground the last 3 years where they won a total of 30 games or something, then people would be a little bit more understanding as, well, we'll have to take what we can get. But as much as everybody wants to win more, and I'm one of them, I get it. When you're all of a sudden kind of right there, right? They've been right there, and they've been kind of 3 more wins a year, man. And you're looking at a bunch of dances. They've been right there. People are expecting more, and that's because of Frank Martin. So we'll have to see. I mean, we can judge the hire today. It just happened. He wasn't my first pick. I'll be honest in saying that. That's okay. But he's the coach. So we'll have to judge him in 2 or 3 years.
Very true. At the back end of that, absolutely. We'll judge this in a couple of years. He wasn't anyone's first choice. I mean, I'm sure there are some people out there that'll tell you now, hey, he was my first choice. He certainly wasn't mine. He certainly wasn't the first choice of South Carolina. He certainly wasn't the first choice of the vast majority of people. When I said what I said about the search and why it looked so bad, part of what I said was there are things out there that most people either know or understand but aren't necessarily talked about. And all of that got aired very publicly. And what you just described is what I'm talking about. It's not a very good job. And now it looks even worse. And now, so you're taking, if you're the administration in South Carolina, you knew you were coming into this search on a certain level of, all right, we're fighting uphill here. We're fighting uphill. Yeah, we landed Frank Martin, and that was unbelievable. Not only do we land him, but where the program is today. But we're still fighting uphill right now. And it's a steep hill in terms of how the program is viewed nationally. What you can't afford is taking a mountain of evidence of that and piling it on a national level. And that's what happened. So that's why this search was so problematic for me, because it makes a problem more of a problem. And now you're giving this to Paris, who knows if he's going to succeed, but you gave him something harder than you had to give him. So now how much support are you going to throw behind him? That's to me the part of this that screams big problem in the process, is that you just don't need all of this dirty laundry being aired all over the place at a time when you can't afford to have that happen, because you just ran off one of the most winningest coaches in your program's history for whatever reason, right? And I've supported that. I think it's best for both. But you don't want to start looking even worse and then have the national landscape, some people who weren't even tuned into it as much, now they're looking at it like, what in the world is going on at South Carolina? I'll put this one bit out in terms of the SEC overall. In terms of mid-major teams that were really good this year, some of the best ones, 5 of them have their coaches now in the SEC. Murray State's coaches in the SEC, San Francisco's coaches in the SEC, New Mexico State's coaches at Mississippi State, Chattanooga's is at South Carolina, and Cleveland State's coach is at Missouri. So the mid-major guys who had success this year, regular, consistent success, a lot of them are now in the SEC.
It's a great point. Chris Johns is the new coach of Mississippi State, I believe, from New Mexico State, right, Darren?
I think Jans.
Jans, Chris Johns. And I'll bet you $100 to every penny that nobody in Starkville knew who Chris Johns was.
No.
Okay. But you're not, to my knowledge, I know there's always going to be some out there, but it's not an overwhelming negative response. Why? Because it was a clean process. That's why. Mm-hmm. Okay, it was a clean process. Period. The end. They drove from point A, they got to point B. That's what happened. And you know, we've been in a funnel for the last week of what's going to happen here. Oh, it's going to be Sean Miller. Oh wait, Matt McMahon's back in play. No, he's not. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, just hire BJ. Well, everybody has a heartstring for BJ. It's BJ Mackey. I get that, and he didn't get the job. You know, I think there were some advantages to hiring BJ Mackey. I really do. I also didn't interview him, so I don't know why he wasn't hired, but Lamont Paris was. Mm-hmm. And for more on Lamont Paris, we're going to hit a timeout. And when we return, Gene Henley from the Chattanooga, let me get this right, Darren, the Chattanooga Free Times Press, right?
I believe it's Times Free Press. Times graphic up. Yeah, Times Free Press.
Chattanooga Times Free Press. I'm sorry, Gene.
He's okay.
If he's listening, I apologize. I'm so sorry. We've been trying to figure this out for, only 12 hours. So that's who we're going to talk to next. He's going to fill us in on Lamont Paris, and I really can't wait to have him on our program. Everybody hang tight. The JB and Goldwater Show. We'll be right back.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right. We take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need need the perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or StokesVW.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity financed a new loan, subject to lender approval.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work, and two others you probably don't think much about, stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
It's the best time of the year on the sports calendar, and there's no better place to soak it all in than your spring headquarters. Dog and Duck, with 3 area locations in Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. Until May, $5 pints of Wicked Weed Brews and Devil's Backbone, again, until May. Patio seating, happy hour daily, family bingo on Monday, the Duck Truck Double Burger every Wednesday, rib night on Friday. It's the place to be for the best wings in town, the best sports everywhere you look. Dog and Duck, 3 area locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road.
Motley Rice LLC is a law firm with international reach, but it hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for people harmed by products including asbestos and talc exposure, medical drugs and devices, and also catastrophic injuries and auto recalls, including dangerous Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. Visit motleyrice.com. Thank you, Motley Rice, for supporting the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
What's up, everybody? This is South Carolina singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, Tennessee now, but guess what? I can always keep up with the news back in South Carolina because I've got the JB and Goldwater Show. Thank you, JB and Darren, for being live, loud, and online.
You're welcome, Patrick. Speaking of the great state of Tennessee, Patrick up there in Nashville, but he'll be down in a few weeks. He's got that concert in Camden for the Cup, and then he'll be in Columbia for the spring game. Keep an eye. What's that?
Windjammer too.
In May. Yeah, I can't wait for that. Speaking of which, Carolina football will keep an eye on Shane Beamer and his comments as he meets with the media today. Anything worthy, we will pass it along. It's his second press conference of the spring. But the main story in Columbia right now is the hiring of Lamont Paris, formerly now of UT Chattanooga, and we don't know much about him, and that's why we have brought in Gene Henley to tell us everything about him with the Chattanooga Times Free Press. And from what I understand, Gene, you've already done a hit in the capital city this morning with our friend Bill Gunner and his team at 107.5 The Game, so we really appreciate you being kind enough to pop on with us around lunchtime. What's up, man?
Well, I figured there was a royalty check coming because I've done multiple shows in the city now. So I'll be waiting on that at any moment now. I'll send you all my Cash App or my Venmo at the end of this call. We can figure it out.
Yeah. Next time I'm rolling around McKenzie Arena, I'll have a slice of pizza for you or something.
Let me.
There we go.
Let me send Gunner a text and see if he can get Cumulus to ship you a check on that end. Okay.
Just put it on my tab, man. Just put it on my tab.
That's right. That is my life saying, to be honest with you. Well, thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. I have been told by 2 different people today that you are one of the best at what you do. So I'm really excited to have this conversation with you about Lamont Paris. You've covered his tenure at UT Chattanooga, and Gamecock fans, it's been a whirlwind. It seems like it's been a month, but it's only been a week, Gene, to get a new head coach named. And Lamont Paris's name has kind of been there, but it's been a little bit off the grid until recently. So the last 48 hours plus, it's really circulated to the top of the search. And then last night, we kind of get confirmation that he is going to be the guy in Columbia. So tell us about Lamont Paris. What do you know about him? What's to like about him?
I've been talking to some people today, and I'm trying to figure out the best word to describe Lamont. I think the best phrase to describe him would be an acquired taste. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but I will say, like, whenever the opening press conference is, he's not going to win that. He's not going to win that at all. Like, that's not who he is. Like, he doesn't have social media. He doesn't have anything, which is part of the reason why I think a lot of South Carolina fans are like, who is this guy? Because it's not like you can just type in Twitter, go to his Twitter handle and see what he's liking or communicating with. He's just he's a person who really just wants you to get to know him the old-fashioned way. Like, you're going to have to look him in the eye. You're going to have a conversation with him. And that's how he builds his relationships, which are obviously good, especially in the coaching industry. It sometimes makes it harder on the initial because you don't necessarily get that, you don't get that glimpse into who he is until you actually talk to him, which isn't always possible for a lot of people. Like, not everybody will have the opportunity to communicate and interact with Lamont, but once you do, you realize you've got a good guy who knows a ton about basketball and is very intelligent. Like, you will feel smarter once you've had a conversation with him, and then once you watch his teams play, I think you'll feel good about the product that you've got, because he knows how to put a team together through any means necessary.
Gene, are you aware of, and what we're going to talk much more about what he has accomplished in Chattanooga and how that will relate itself to Columbia, but are you aware to this point of any other openings that Lamont Paris has been linked to in college basketball?
Georgia.
Okay.
I had some pushback last night on that, but there were early communications. I think while Tom Crean was still the head coach, there were a lot of conversations and some whining and dining between Georgia people and Lamont. And I understand that Mike White was the quote unquote obvious hire, blah 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 blah. I just know for a fact that there were communications between Lamont and Georgia officials, and I do think that if South Carolina hadn't worked out, I thought he was going to be pretty high on the wish list at Murray State. I thought he would have been pretty high on the wish list at Butler if they make a change, which I've heard is more than likely. So. Not necessarily, but again, I think he's a guy that you kind of have to dig a little deeper to realize is what he's done, because the totality of his record in Chattanooga is okay. The totality of his conference record, it's okay, but I think you have to get to the latter part of his career to really see just what he can do whenever he has the guys that he needs to have to be successful with his systems.
So how did he change then? So what changed with him? Because you just said once he gets his guys, and what changed there besides the roster after 2 years at Chattanooga to kind of flip that record and kind of spur the success he's had over the last 3 years, and then keyed by the championship? What flipped?
Well, I think what he realized early on was you can go out and you can recruit some of the best freshmen, possible for your program, but if they don't want to stay, they're not. Then you can't do anything. So, like, his second year, like his first year, he had the youngest team in the country. By every metric, they were the youngest team in the country. Like, they didn't have a senior on the roster. I think they got one kid to walk on, a kid who played at Middle Tennessee, and then transferred to Chattanooga to play football, and then decided to use the last part of his career to play basketball again. They got him to play, and so he has the youngest roster in the country his first year. His second year, he goes out and recruits actually really well. Has like 2 of the 3 highest rated recruits that the program's ever had. One of them becomes conference freshman of the year. The other one is like an all conference sort of player. The freshman of the year leaves for TCU. The other kid leaves and goes back to Chicago and plays for UIC. And so I think after the second year, he just realized, okay, I'm going to have to, at this program, I'm going to have to build guys like from the portal, guys who may not be happy at their previous stops, can contribute to us winning. So he goes out and, obviously completely flips the roster in terms of just getting older players. He doesn't have many younger guys, but that's more a result of the inability to keep. I mean, I think the past like 6 SoCon freshmen of the year have all transferred out of their respective programs and gone to greener pastures, including the kid at Citadel who just put his name in the portal this year. You can't keep those guys. Like, you're just not going to, because they show the smallest inkling of ability to play. And I think the Citadel situation, a coaching change, didn't help that either. But they all leave, and so he just decided that as long as he was going to be in Chattanooga, he was going to kind of really build things through the portal. And he got more experience that way. He got better that way, and obviously the results came.
Gene Henley joining us at 12:40 here on the JB and Goldwater show, discussing the hiring of Lamont Paris, or the soon-to-be official hire of Lamont Paris at the University of South Carolina. Gene is with the Chattanooga Times Free Press. Gene, what have those who have worked with Lamont Paris over the years, formerly at Wisconsin, current assistant coaches and others, what do they say about him?
I think you'll realize a lot of the conversations that he's Lamont, and it's weird to kind of put it in that little sort of box, but he's a very cerebral guy. Like, that's how he wants to coach the game. Those are the players that he wants to coach. He doesn't want to coach the little thing. He wants to be able to kind of just deal with, the offense, the defense. He wants to let his players be cerebral players that can make plays on the basketball court. I think he kept one assistant throughout his entire time in Chattanooga, and that's a guy named Tanner Bronson. There's been only a small amount of turnover. I think they lost 2 assistants in his time there. The guy that went to, I think, Toledo, another went to Kent State. There's been a level of consistency, and they all swear about this guy. Like, even as I sometimes think that Lamont is kind of, I don't know if weird is the right word, but he's different. Like, he is different. Like I've said at the beginning, you'll interact with him and you'll be like, okay, this guy's he's kind of a different breed, different cat. But again, like, I think usually the results are, you look at how, the turnover on coaching staffs really tell how he really treats and works with guys. Like, Greg Gard swears by him. I saw when, Chattanooga was announced on the selection show, the Wisconsin people all celebrated. So, like, he's certainly developed a great rapport at the places that he's gone and the guys that he's worked with, and that helps.
Describe his style of play for us, Gene. What offensively, defensively, what brand of basketball will he be bringing to the SEC?
Well, he's a Wisconsin guy, so offensively, at the peak of his offensive system, he's going to have 5 guys that are capable, that are skilled basketball players. I think one of his biggest challenges is to, in recruiting at South Carolina, is going to be his ability to really find cerebral basketball players that also kind of meet the sort of athleticism needed to compete in the SEC. You're really going to do a lot of homework and research to get some of those guys, because you sometimes get one or the other, not always both. He wants all 5 guys. I mean, if you watch that Wisconsin system, it was all 5 guys, Kaminsky and Nigel Hayes and all those guys. They were able to make plays. They were able to make smart plays on the court. They were always looking. I mean, they're guys that the guys at Chattanooga. I mean, Silvio De Sousa, who obviously had a very, tumultuous career in college. You realize how good of a passer he was once you started watching him play. And, he wants to have guys who can shoot the ball, who can rebound, who pass effectively, who make the right plays. Yeah, and on defense, he really coaches effort. He doesn't want to really coach much in terms of scheme or whatever. He goes out and finds like good athletic wings that can kind of take away what you want to do. He's not going to do a lot in terms of scheme. It's just he basically told me a while back that, if I recall, defense is about effort. So that's basically, you got to stay in front of your guy type sort of defense. He's not Frank Martin, we'll say that much. Like, you look at some of the advanced metrics that suggested that Chattanooga had a top 75 offense and defense this year. But there were years that they were like, he had a defense 2 seasons ago when they won 20 games that was in the 220s. That's not going to change. Like he's so much more of an offensive guy than a defensive guy. But if he has a good defense, has good defensive personnel, he's going to run with it. They're not going to press. They'll run a little bit of 1-3-1 zone with a tall guy, probably a 4 guy up top, and a guy who's maybe about 6'7", 6'8", who's real long and can affect you. In offense, it's just going to be about the system. Maybe a big point guard, maybe a couple, 3 shooters around the perimeter, and a big who they will throw the ball into the post. And a big who can kind of make plays for himself and make plays for others.
Gene, can you describe for us, and I know that Chattanooga has a proud history, a proud basketball program. They have been successful. Matter of fact, since in the last 16 or 17 years, I think, by my math, they've been in the dance 4 times. They've been overall, 12, 13 times, 14 times in their history. It's a lot for a SoCon team. It's fantastic. You've already mentioned once that it is difficult in the SoCon, in other leagues that are considered quote unquote, mid-major type leagues, to keep your star players in them. You recruit a young man out of high school, he blooms, he blossoms, and he decides because of the transfer portal to hop in it and go somewhere larger, into the SEC or the ACC or whatever it is. So with that being said, can you describe the type of job that Chattanooga is now, not just on a mid-major level, but what type of job is it within its own league comparatively to Furman and all these other programs that they have to play against night in and night out?
Right. Well, it has the potential of being elite. Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing that Chattanooga fights is consistency at the head coaching ranks. I mean, they're about to break in their 5th head coach since 2013 or 2012, and I don't know if there's been that much sort of turnover in the league outside of, ETSU I think is on its 4th coach right now in that time frame. VMI is still on the 2nd. Citadel's about to have its 3rd. Furman I think it's had 3. Wofford I think only had 2. And it makes it difficult. But at its peak, at its best, in Chattanooga I would say would be a top 2, top 3 job in the league, just because you have the ability to get players and you have the ability to build things quick if need be. I mean, if you want to develop, you can bring those guys in, but you may lose them after a year. If you want to bring in transfers, it's a place that you can get guys in. You can be competitive quickly. However you want to build the program, they're going to give you 5 years to do it. I mean, see Lamont for that, 22 and 43 in his first 2 years, and obviously 65 I think at 28 in his last 3. And you have the ability to win there. I think the last 5 or 6 coaches, have at least one 20-win season, and I think the 3 of the last 4 have a conference championship. Mm-hmm. And I think the only exception was Will Wade, who built the championship that Matt McCall won.
Right.
And so you can win there. Is it an easy job? No, because you do have the ability to lose players that quickly, and you can bring them in, build them up, and then watch them walk out the door. I think Lamont lost 17. I mean, people talk about the transfers he brought in. He lost 17 transfers in the time. Some outlandish number. Yeah, I mean, that's the part that people don't necessarily talk about. They just talk about everybody he brought in. I mean, some of those guys went to SMU. One guy's still playing at Cal. One guy's playing at Vanderbilt right now. I mean, his second year, he was down to one guy, basically, who was there the first year. His first year, he's playing a walk-on who started his career in college off as a team manager. And because they had so few players, this kid ended up playing 14 games. And, and helping, doing a couple things and helping the program out. So, it's a job where you can win, and you can show that you can win in a multitude of ways, because Will Wade won with transfers. Lamont Paris won with transfers. Matt McCall won with Will Wade's guys. I mean, it's what it is. I don't think I'm saying anything that's wrong there.
Nope. No.
They won with Will Wade's guys and got a nice little payday out of it at UMass, although obviously that ended poorly. It's a good job. I don't know whoever gets the job next. It'll be a tough thing next year. I mean, I think everybody's chasing Furman in that league next year, especially with Slauson and Bothwell likely coming back. Wofford, I think, will be better next year. They were good. We'll see what happens at VMI. There's been some speculation that UTC may take a look at VMI's head coach. I doubt it, but who knows? It's a job where you may start off 6, 7, or 8 in that league, but as Lamont showed, you can build that thing up to top 3 in the league relatively quickly.
Having said that, then, Gene, and knowing what you know about the SEC, Gene was also a beat writer for the Vols for a long time. Heck, he's been in Tennessee forever, I think. So when this happened, when Paris initially was a candidate at South Carolina, then Paris is hired, what was your initial reaction?
Yeah, that it really was. It was Can he win there? Yes, I do think he can win there. Will it be easy for him to win there? No, it won't, because that league can chew you up and spit you out. And he's going to go in there with this unique style, this unique personality, and this unique style of play where it won't always be aesthetically pleasing. Again, I think Chattanooga's tempo this year was in the 300s. Now,
much
they're
slower
efficient.
than Carolina.
Yeah, they're efficient, but they're not going to run up and down. Now, Lamont's thing is always take the best shot at the best time. I don't care when it is. I don't care what it is. We're not going to jack up 35, 43s. I think his last Wisconsin team, the team that got beat in the national championship game, that he said that was the number one. That was actually one of the most efficient teams in the history of KenPom. And I think I remember looking. It was like, yeah, it was. And his last team in Chattanooga was in the 60s. And so it's going to be tough. I actually thought that there were probably better options for both sides out there, but they both kind of I don't want to say settled on each other, because I do think Lamont can be good there. And I'm not here to, it's not going to be Lamont's job to win the press conference, because I'm telling you, he's not going to do that. But I do think that people can walk away feeling good about what he can bring. It's just not some bubbly personality or anything crazy that he's going to do so. But I would have thought maybe Mackey would have been better for South Carolina, but he has no head coaching experience. And look, I know everybody wants the alums until the alums aren't getting the job done. And then all of a sudden you've got to fire the alum, which becomes an exponentially harder job.
Yeah.
Because people don't necessarily want you. Well, if you just give them one more year, they could probably turn it around. Well, you can't do that in the SEC. Whereas, Lamont does have some head coaching experience, has shown that he could build something, as evidenced by those last 3 years in Chattanooga. I actually thought that a school like Murray State would have made a little bit more sense. But they're married right now. They're not officially married, but they're about to walk down the aisle together. And I do think he can win. There's some times where there's no natural recruiting. There's not a recruiting background for him in South Carolina. That's probably the bigger reason why. If you had told me Tennessee, or if you had told me Vanderbilt, if you had told me one of these schools where there are some sort of recruiting, there's at least a small level of a recruiting background involved, okay, I get it. But I don't think that there was a single kid for UTC that is from the state of South Carolina, and not many from the state of Georgia. So, I'm just looking at it, I'm like, can he win there? Yeah. But he may be doing it with some Midwestern guys for a year or two. I think it'll be very smart for him to find somebody who has South Carolina ties, tight South Carolina ties, as quickly as possible to join his staff, because I don't know how many people he's considering bringing taking from Chattanooga. I don't know. We'll see, but I think it's very important for him to find a guy who has some South Carolina ties to be on that staff, because somebody's going to have to be a buffer, I'd say, for a little bit, to at least get him in the homes of some of these guys that he can pitch his vision for the program and be able to get the guys that he needs to win as quickly as possible.
I think it's a great point. I'd be interested to see if he, Gene, does contact any of those who have been in the program with Frank Martin, like Brian Steele, who is a young man who played for the Gamecocks in a minimal role, but he played, and he is very highly thought of in the coaching ranks. He's young and he knows this state pretty well, and he has been able to get into some doors. And you've probably heard there's some elite prospects from around here. One from about 10 miles down the road from Columbia, the top-ranked player in the country, who was very highly considering becoming a Gamecock if Frank Martin was retained. And he's in their backyard, so we'll see how that works out. Final question for you before we let you run here. I know we've kept you for a while. I know you don't have the answer, but if you had to speculate for South Carolina fans, and let me warn fans, this is speculation. Don't take Gene's words and run with them and put them on a message board that this is what he said and it's going to happen. But, this program hasn't been left in bad shape. I mean, they went 18-13 this year, Gene. It's not like they have a losing record. However, as you have already pointed out multiple times, the transfer portal creates a different dynamic in college athletics these days. Everybody realistically at South Carolina right now can just jump in the transfer portal. Some of them have already transferred once, so they probably have to sit out, but they could transfer and leave, and they'll just have to start from scratch, or they might not. How would you describe the future, the immediate future, and then the long-term future as far as success goes for Gamecock basketball? What type of success are they looking at now with Lamont Paris putting together the program he wants?
I think it's incumbent upon Lamont to really, after he's got off the phone with Gigi, because I know that's who you're talking about. After he's got off the phone with that guy, I think my second phone call is Keyshawn Bryant to try to keep him in the fold, because I think he's the sort of foundational piece that could, maybe play that sort of style. Like I've seen a little bit of Keyshawn over the years, and that's a good piece to have. I would make a call to Stevenson and offer a pitch to him. I wouldn't be stunned if he brought in a kid from Chattanooga. I would not be stunned if he got that. And if the key is to have a foundation going forward. I mean, like, you have to have a foundation. Like, if he brings in, I wouldn't be stunned. The SoCon Player of the Year was Malachi Smith, 6'4" point guard, averaged 20 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. I wouldn't be stunned. That kid's got 2 years of eligibility left. I think he's graduated. I think he graduates in May. And if he hadn't already, I think he graduates in May, though. But, you bring a kid, because he's already transferred once, but he can transfer again as long as he's graduated. Bring a kid in like that, offers at least a solid foundation for what you're trying to build. And, if he can get those 3 guys, and then he can filter some pieces in around that, because I think those are the 3 main ones. The number 5 kid, I'm sorry, I don't remember his name. Jermaine, I think is his first name.
Yeah.
Maybe trying to get him, trying to get that kid in the fold. Like, those are the sorts of players that if you get those guys in there, now you can maybe potentially build something, because you're going to have a combination of athleticism plus some guys who really understand what you're trying to do. I mean, right now you don't have anybody that understands what you're trying to do on your roster, and it's vastly different. I'm telling you now, it's vastly different than what Frank Martin did. I mean, what Frank was to defense, Lamont is to offense, and so he's going to do things different ways. So there's going to be parts of that program, pieces on that roster that may not, see themselves a fit for Lamont. And, he has no issue letting you leave. He's not going to block you from anything. That's not who he is. So I think if you just give, in a year or two, we can revisit this conversation in 2024. Yeah. I feel like they're either NIT good or within 2 years, or at least, sort of last 4 in, first 4 out, sort of good. It's going to take a little bit of time for him to figure some stuff out. Within 2-3 years, I have a feeling that he has the ability to build a team that's good enough to make it to the big dance.
Look, that should be a little bit reassuring. We're going to clearly see what happens with the current roster, but per what you said there, that should be some some reassurance to Carolina fans. If you can recruit the roster you have currently, you're probably going to find some success sooner than later. But if not, then we just need to probably expect it's going to take a little bit of time. Does that kind of sum it up?
Yeah, and unfortunately in the SEC, I don't know if you have that time.
Yeah, you don't.
In South Carolina. I mean, there is a level of, I understand the overall history hasn't always been great, but look, fans will base their seasons off of March. And Frank did have a Final Four. So that's something that South Carolina fans are aspiring for. At least get in the tournament and make a run. That Final Four holds a lot of water because covering Tennessee, they're still begging for that. And they still haven't seen it. And they've had a lot more success in South Carolina, but South Carolina can always say we were on that last weekend. So if he can build it, then I do think that he has potential of being a good coach there because he's shown it before. And he's shown it from building. He didn't show it from being born on third base. He had to build that here. And I do think that going forward, if he has a similar opportunity, then South Carolina will have a chance to be equally as successful.
I think that's something that certainly caught Coach Tanner's eye throughout the process. This team over the last 5 seasons has gotten better and better and better under Lamont Paris, that being the Chattanooga Mocs. By the way, in the last 20 years, Lamont Paris, now the 3rd former coach at Chattanooga to make his way into the SEC, preceded by Jeff Lebo, who jumped for Auburn, and Will Wade, who went through VCU first and ended up at LSU. We'll see if let's see if you're Lamont Paris.
It work out.
Yeah.
It worked out great for those two. I mean, Will did have success, but Will had other issues. I mean,
right.
He was not fired for lack of success at LSU. He was good enough that they were willing to overlook everything else.
Yep.
Everything else that came with them. Whereas Lebo, I think, just kind of took an opportunity at Auburn, and it hasn't ultimately worked out. Although he kind of gets the last laugh because he's riding this, Carolina thing, until the wheels fall off.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, Jeff Lebo was on Eddie Fogler's staff at South Carolina when they won the SEC championship in 1997. So he knows a little bit about Columbia as well. And but anyways, look, we've kept you so long. I'm sure you want a sandwich or something. It's 1 o'clock.
You know what? I'm fine, man. But I got a little time right now. I don't mind it at all because I've done everything I could possibly do at this moment because nothing else is going to happen for a few days. So
yeah. Well, you've done
can't do anything else.
Well, look, man, you've done a fantastic job, and we really appreciate your time on our program today. Again, I know that you've double dipped in the Palmetto State. I saw not too long before we got you on the air that you were actually on with Bill Gunner and those guys at 107.5 The Game in Columbia, and they're excellent. So I'm sure you had a blast there. We hope you had fun here, and we certainly hope that you'll come back and chat with us soon.
Hey, not a problem, of course, because I've got that royalty check that y'all owe.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'll be checking my mail, anxiously waiting for that one, man. I think so. I appreciate you all having me, guys. I really do.
Good catching up, man.
Thank you, Gene. Excellent work. Thank you very much.
All right, y'all take care, guys. Thanks, man.
There you go. Gene Henley with the Chattanooga Times Free Press. That was great. That was great insight, and I thought really honest. Not a whole lot more you can ask for there. All right, we got to hit a break. When we return, we'll follow up on that. And we got some more to get into. We got Keith Allsep ahead, so it's a packed final hour, as it always is. Hang tight. The JB and Goldwater Show. We'll be right back. Right here in our backyard is Motley Rice LLC, a law firm that hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for South Carolinians who were injured while traveling by plane or bus, harmed by medical drugs and devices, or burdened by dangerous auto recalls, including Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. We are honored to have Motley Rice as a sponsor for the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work, and two others you probably don't think much about. stuck with a big medical bill, or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Flamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the National Anthem.
JB Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
All right, 107, final hour on a Tuesday afternoon. Continued reaction to the hiring of Lamont Paris. Although it's not official, we have not received anything official from the University of South Carolina yet. Once that email hits my inbox, I promise you'll know. So it is not official, but it is widely known that he is going to be the next guy here in Columbia. I thought that was great from Gene Henley. Really appreciate his honesty. We do have Keith Allsep coming up in just a little bit as well. Quickly, no Phil at the Masters. If you haven't heard, why was it the Masters decision? Was it Phil's decision? I don't know, but he's not going to be there. So don't plan on watching. If you're tuning in to watch Phil, you're not going to see him. Just kind of give everybody heads up on that. And a quick reminder tonight in college baseball, the Gamecocks are in town at the Citadel at 7 o'clock. College of Charleston is at Georgia Southern. Coastal Carolina is at Clemson. CSU at Mercer. Wofford at USC Upstate. It's something interesting is going to happen somewhere tonight in this state in college baseball. That's my projection on that one. So we will keep our eyes peeled there. I kind of want to go back to the interview, Darren, because I know that I know there's other things going on in the sports world, but everybody really wants to talk about this, and I think we're about to enter an uncomfortable time period for South Carolina basketball. I think uncomfortable is the right word, and let me tell you why I say that. Because you have 2 generations of Gamecock basketball that have been pulling in different directions from this one. So you have the link to the past, which includes Tulane's B.J. Mackey, by virtue of what he did as a player at South Carolina, what he's doing now as a coach. But he's a legend in that uniform. His uniform hangs in the rafters. And then his son was a member of the Final Four team, Justin Mackey. And so you have that angle. You have, if anybody has seen it in the state newspaper, multiple, and these are just the guys who've been public about it, former players, some of the best players we've ever seen at South Carolina, JoJo English, Melvin Watson, Larry Davis, Carlos Powell, Aaron Lucas, these guys who have spoken up and said, and I'm referencing the state there and some of what I've seen on social media from these guys, that they want BJ, and now that they're disappointed that BJ didn't get the job. None of them said, I hate South Carolina because they didn't hire BJ Mackey. I'll never follow the program again. We need to fire everybody. That nobody has gone to that extreme, but they have shared publicly their disappointment in the fact that BJ Mackey did not get hired when there was an opportunity for him to be hired. That's one side. The other side is the group that played under Frank Martin. There is not one player that played under Frank Martin, as you know, Darren, who's ever said a bad word about Frank Martin publicly, or that we know of privately for that matter. And there have been many who have been very vocal in supporting Frank Martin when he got fired and supporting him to be retained before he got fired. Sandarius Thornwell, PJ Dozier, Dwayne Notice, Chris Silva, and on and on and on and on. So you have this generation of players and this generation of players, which are important, and they're both from two of the best time periods ever at the school, in addition to Alex English, who helped keep Frank here last year, who was part of the greatest generation, who have all pulled in different directions. There is no rallying point that we are aware of any of these guys behind Lamont Paris. And that's going to take some time. And what you'll hope is that gets there. But it's not there right now. So it's going to be a little bit, and I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Everybody's still learning about Lamont Paris. That's all I'm saying. This is new. This is fresh. He just got hired. And so this is going to be a little bit of an uncomfortable time period. You're going to hear a lot of reaction from people who are wanting a different scenario or a different outcome as opposed to what we have now at South Carolina, Darren. And I'm not saying it's going to be anything that needs to be repaired, but it's just going to be needed to be built together. And I'm really anxious. We should have asked him this question. I'm really anxious to see what Lamont Paris, what his strategy is as far as embracing the Gamecock basketball community that these players are all a part of.
It'd be tough for him to answer that. So that's okay that we missed
just like what he did at Chattanooga, that type thing, you know.
Here's what's uncomfortable for me about it. I have said many times that I think the guy who needs to come in has to be a magnetic personality, has to be someone who can have a Beamer-like effect. And while everyone I've talked to really likes Paris, everyone I've talked to is a real basketball nut like I am. So I can see why they gravitate to him. If he is such a cerebral guy, as Gene used a lot, when he's talking about that, he's talking about really a deeper level of basketball stuff than the majority of fans are willing to even accept. So if it's hard to get to know him right away, that's okay. Then the onus falls on an administration that has proven it cannot market and support a basketball program the way it needs to, and an administration that has then put themselves farther behind the eight ball because of how this whole thing went. So this furthers my belief that they have put Paris in an even worse spot because of all of that. So that's my big concern. Can he win? Absolutely. Will it be immediate? I have no idea. But can he build something that wins and that's sustainable? Yeah. Is he going to have the time to do that? And will the support be there from the administration first and foremost, and then the fans, because that's gonna be part of the administration's job. I mean, all the hype and the buzz around the football, it's gotta be there, and it even more so has to be there now. That will help rally the fan base, and I don't have faith that that's going to happen based on what I have seen recently. I'll throw one other thing in. You've seen these post-up career resumes a lot. Olivia Thompson has taken over Post Up Career's Instagram page today as the Gamecock women make their way to the Sweet 16. And if you want to freshen up your resume, looking for a new career, better career, whatever, it's postupcareers.com. Franklin's awesome.
Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. He is one. Well, he's fantastic. Absolutely. In the Share Healthcare chat lines, let's see. Victoria Hi, Victoria. How are you? She said, if you have never heard Paris speak, take a minute and watch the post-Illinois game interview. That way the won't win you over in his opening press conference won't come as such a shock. I did that, Victoria. As a matter of fact, I did that last night. I watched the press conference before they played Illinois, and I watched it afterwards. He's fairly soft-spoken, at least publicly. Because we don't ever know. And I'm glad you pointed that out. You're exactly right. If you go to YouTube, it's on YouTube. Just type in Lamont Paris, and it'll come right up. So great point there from Victoria. And, so what you see publicly isn't always what you get behind closed doors. Didn't we just go through 10 years of this? I mean, we watched Frank Martin, and he had all these people that they saw him publicly, and they assumed that they knew exactly who he was. And people who actually knew him were like, yeah, I don't think you understand. Behind closed doors, that is not Frank Martin that you see on the floor. And so what you see from Lamont Paris in a press conference or what you see from him on the sidelines might be entirely different with what you see at practice and in the offices. So we'll kind of have to wait and see there. I saw a couple of comments here. These are really good. From Chris. Hey, Chris, hope you're having a great Tuesday afternoon, and thank you so much for being part of our program. He says, we couldn't properly market Frank Martin as a head coach or a team that went to the Final Four, but we're going to get fans on board with a guy who doesn't have social media or connection to South Carolina. Oof. And then he went on to say, no one else was banging down the door to get Mackey as their head coach. That tells you just about everything right now. In 5 years, if it doesn't work out with Paris, maybe he's ready then. No rush. All right, so let me comment on the let's get to the second one. There you go. Let's get to that one first. So true. I would say, Chris, I'm not throwing stones at you, my man. I'm just to kind of counter the point a little bit. I don't know that BJ Mackey was necessarily shipping his resume out there either. I'm not sure how many openings knew that BJ Mackey was interested in the opening. You know what I mean? Like when Georgia was open, I don't know that BJ Mackey let anybody know he'd be interested in that one, or Missouri or LSU or Florida or anywhere else. Maybe he did. I just don't know. So I'm not sure that I can go that far personally yet and say nobody's beating down the door for BJ Mackey, because had he expressed interest in another job outside of South Carolina, somebody might have been beating down the door for BJ Mackey. So I just don't know. And I don't know that South Carolina was necessarily beating down the door for BJ Mackey either, until BJ was like, I'm going to apply. And if you're South Carolina, you have to show interest in, you don't have any choice. You've got to show interest in BJ Mackey for a multitude of reasons, which we're going to talk to Keith in a little bit. So we'll try to get into some of that. The other part is, and you nailed it, is from Chris, we couldn't properly market Frank Martin. Look, Frank Martin has done some interviews, and we probably need to try to get him around here as well soon. And I know some people have been a little bit uneasy with some of the stuff he said the last couple of days, Darren. But I'd really like somebody to tell me where he was wrong.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what's uneasy about it. I mean, He said, good luck. Yeah, that's what I'd say to Paris too. I'd say it a couple times. Good luck, because look, what we've just gone through, what we've seen, for a lot of the reasons I just laid out too. And then also Frank is clearly bitter as well, and that's adding to it, but he's not wrong. He's dead on. Good luck. You're going to need more support than he got, and you're going to need changes. There needs to be even more money thrown behind him than there would have been for Sean Miller. I don't know the financials, but that needs to happen because he needs it.
Yeah, Frank said, and this he is so right, and we'll get a break and we'll get back and we'll get Keith in here in a few minutes. But and look, these are Frank's words, right? So, if there's something that is contrary or not correct, the university has every right to respond, but they probably won't because they've moved on. And I don't even know that you want to get into that. But, Frank said, look, I haven't really been communicated with throughout the year on this at all. And I kind of thought I'd get a little bit more communication. I don't disagree with him on that. And the thing that stood out the most to me was we went to the Final Four and we had 3,600 people in the building the first game of the year. I mean, like following the Final Four. that doesn't happen. Like that is, and I'm not you, Darren. You know me, man. You've known me a while. I'm not a big calling for firing people. I don't like fire this guy and fire that guy. But if I was the athletics director, Coach Tanner, and I walked into the building for the first time to watch this team play since they went to the Final Four, which, by the way, if you would have ever asked me what happens first, the Gamecock basketball program goes to the Final Four or the football team wins a national championship, I'd say bet the house on the football team. I would have never dreamed in my wildest dreams that they would be in the Final Four in men's basketball. Never. No prayer. Okay? If I was Coach Tanner and I would have walked in there and seen the place 1/6 full of what it should be, of what it seats, I would have gone straight to the Joe Rice building and I would have been unleashing all types of hellfire and fury. And then somebody would have been outside picking up trash and finding new jobs. I would have lost my lunch on that. This is the most celebrated achievement in the history of Gamecock basketball. Nobody knows about it, and there's 3,000 people in here. I don't care who they're playing. That was embarrassing. And Frank said it again this week, and it should have been talked about more, and I'm one of the people you should probably blame for that over the last few years that hasn't talked about it enough. That is embarrassing. To your point, Darren, when you say things like they need more support, it's the little things like that add up. You're not saying go out and, build a locker room with a barber shop in it. Like just tell people about the team is what you're saying, basically. And that when Frank said that a few times, and he's dead on. He's absolutely right. It's embarrassing.
He has said that a couple times. I think we and lots of others have discussed it many times, that the lack of support and marketing following that run, that's been discussed a lot. And that was the start. Someone just said it in the chat room. I think it was Chris again. He was at that game. And we'll look back at like the start of the slide right there, because it didn't change. There wasn't more. I've heard that, we're going to change the court around. We're not going to do that. We're going to move the seating around. Well, that's still I've heard lots of things. You need a heck of a lot more than that. And you talk about new locker rooms. Let me tell you something. If the current state where it is right now, coupled with how bad it looks because of the last couple of days, there does need to be some glitz around there. There does need to be some sprucing up. You are going to need to bring recruits, transfers, because I like what Gene said, maybe some guys from the Midwest. Yeah, you're going to go sell them on Columbia, South Carolina. How are you going to do that? You don't have a football building like that. You do need things like that. They need it, and they need it now more, and they would have needed it with Sean Miller or McMahon. You need it more now because you need to help sell this program. It's on the administration as much as it's on Paris right now, and they've done that to themselves.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can't just keep making coaching changes. There's got to be a plan with it. I'll give them some credits. I've been in there. I've been in the building a lot in my life, but the practice facility is fantastic. What they've done with Frank McGuire Arena is really, I mean, it's second to nothing. I mean, it is wonderful. It is wonderful. And they've done an outstanding job with that, But and I'm not disagreeing with you, Darren. I mean, I'm giving them credit. Look, if I'm going to criticize them, I'll give them credit where they deserve credit. This is my personal opinion, but yeah, the practice facility is fantastic. But yeah, I think we're all in the same page here. We might differ on how things need to be done a little bit, but if you're going to fire the third winningest coach in the history of the program, and you're going to go hire somebody else who's largely an unknown to this fan base, you're going to have to find a way to support him. Because right now, like if you started playing games tomorrow, you're probably going to have 3,600 people in there again. And that can't happen. So you got to figure out how to do it.
One other area they should invest money, give Justin King someone equal to Justin King on his staff to make videos the same way. So he doesn't have to do it all. Market yourself. Hire another guy. I don't know if that guy's on staff. Maybe he is. But hire that guy. Or elevate that guy. Because there needs to be an equal amount of emphasis and push.
I'm assuming Bobby's not joking with us here. If you had surgery, I hope it all went well. Whatever type of surgery it was. Has this been the topic of the day? Yep. Is the hire official? It's all but. Yeah, it's all but. All right, we got to go. Keith Allsep is with us when we return. Hopefully, you won't ever need legal help for a catastrophic injury or health issues from a medical drug or device. But if you or a loved one suffers injury or loss, Motley Rice LLC is a nationally recognized law firm that is right here in Mount Pleasant at 28 Ridgeside Boulevard. Thank you, Motley Rice, for sponsoring the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show. Visit motleyrice.com for more. motleyrice.com.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need the perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity financed a new loan, subject to lender approval.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it. Let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
It's the best time of the year on the sports calendar, and there's no better place to soak it all in than your spring headquarters. Dog and Duck with 3 area locations in Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. Until May, $5 pints of Wicked Weed Brews and Devil's Backbone. Again, until May. Patio seating, happy hour daily. Family bingo on Monday, the Duck Truck Double Burger every Wednesday, Rib Night on Friday. It's the place to be for the best wings in town, the best sports everywhere you look. Dog and Duck, 3 area locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. Okay, what's going on today, huh? Anything to talk about?
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon. Greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon. Greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon. Greetings and a good Friday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, Darren, I got something to tell you. I need you to put this on your calendar.
Okay.
This is important stuff, so make sure that it's on the calendar so you know when I'm not here, okay? As long as I'm not dead in 30 years, I'm going to be attending the 2051 U.S. Open at Oakland Hills Country Club in Detroit.
That'll be awesome. I'll go.
Who the hell schedules a U.S. Open 30 years out? Dude.
Sounds awesome to me.
How old am I? I'm going to be 67.
What'd you say, in 51?
How old's Keith? Keith will be about 100 by then. He'll still be kicking it. But what are you, 70, Keith? 71?
I mean, I still remember when little Strom Thurmond. I played high school football. I was a senior when he was a freshman.
Well, look, we'll celebrate your 100th birthday at the 2051 U.S. Open.
Now let's see. I think I'll be 87 then.
87. Oh, right.
Hopefully for Addison, I make it till then.
So. I know.
Agree.
The way I wake up some morning with these little girls running around me, I'm like, I don't think I'm going to make it another week, let alone 30 years with whatever. Well, congratulations.
Keep you young or put you in an early grave, my friend.
Well, I'm taking them tomorrow. We're going up to the mountains for a few days, and so if you don't see me on the air Monday, you'll know where I'm buried. Beautiful Maggie Valley. All right, Keith. Lots of reaction to the Lamont Paris hiring. What is yours?
Well, I mean, look, I've been listening to this past segment, and I agree with basically everything you guys said. I think here's the thing. Is there's nothing wrong with Lamont Paris. Okay. He was an integral part of unparalleled success at the University of Wisconsin, which is a place where you have to do more with less. They're not Michigan. They're not Indiana. They're not even Iowa or Ohio State. I mean, they are at a disadvantage to a lot of those schools, just like South Carolina is certainly not Kentucky or not what Rick Barnes has got going on, or Nate Oates or Bruce Pearl, even though the SEC has been dismal in the NCAA tournament. It's a historic hire. It's the first African-American to be the head coach of a major men's sport at the university. He's a really well-respected guy. He has a great reputation as a recruiter at Wisconsin, as a developer of players. And all everybody wants to talk about is, oh, he had a losing record in the Southern Conference. Well, yeah, look at the first 2 years.
Right.
Okay. Will Wade, he did what he does. He built it up. He left. Matt McCall came in from Florida as an assistant and never been a head coach, capitalized on that for 2 years, went to UMass.
Yep.
Where he's already been fired or getting ready to be fired. And Lamont Paris did not inherit a situation that was rolling or a roster chock full of talent. His first season, he had the youngest team in the country. And year over year over year, you've seen improvement outside of the COVID shortened year. This past year, this season, I think he won as many games as Matt McCall did with Will Wade's players his first year as head coach at Chattanooga, 27 wins.
Yep.
And I watched a team take, it was clearly outmanned. I saw him take Illinois to the buzzer, and they had a really good shot to win the game, and it looked right on line. It was just a little bit short.
They had them too.
Yeah,
they had Illinois.
They led a good
portion
portion of that game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you think about, Keith, what the difference of 2 points in that championship game and the first round game could have done for Lamont Paris's career. I mean, you think about where I know this to be true. This is all speculation, right? Clearly, but had that miracle shot not went in, what type of stock
I don't
would
really call that a miracle shot. I mean, granted,
Fair?
it was not a heave, okay? It was not James Reese V against Ole Miss. Okay, that guy.
It was unlikely. Will we agree that that's unlikely?
28 feet, and he knocked it down.
Right. Okay. Well, we don't have to just the shot. If the shot didn't go in, they're not in the dance. All right. How does that change the future of Lamont Paris? And then let me ask you this. What if they would have pulled that Illinois game out? And all of a sudden this cat's won the first round game with Chattanooga. How many other suitors are out there going, well, wait a second here. This Lamont Paris guy, he's on to something. It's just crazy. 2 points could have changed this guy's entire life. Yep. Probably did.
No, I mean, look, I agree with Clint. It wasn't a high percentage shot, but it wasn't a heave either. I mean, let's give the guy credit for knocking down a big shot. I mean, one game, one basket. Ask Darren Horn. Darren Horn was getting ready to get fired at Western Kentucky. Okay,
True.
And I know this for a fact. I had deep connections to that program, to Dennis Felton, Ken McDonald, two of my former players that were from Bulgaria, played at Western Kentucky for Dennis Felton. Todor Pandov, who's now the head of sports performance for Philadelphia 76ers. He had a knee injury, and so he redshirted. He was on Darren Horn's first team. A family that I know basically adopted him when he came over to the States. And I know everything there is to know about Darren Horn. And guess what? He won the press conference, and he won with what Dave Odom left him, and that was it.
That was it.
You know, no, you want to talk about some prayers being answered. That guy had some prayers answered in the conference tournament and in the first round of the NCAA tournament. So it can change your projection. But look, J.C. Sherbert brought up Lamont Paris's name before Frank Martin got fired, before they won the Southern Conference tournament. This was clearly a guy that was in Ray Tanner's crosshairs. And I think, look, I'm old, okay? I remember the
we established
100 and ever how many day search that settled on Steve Fig Newton when King Dixon was the athletic director. I remember when Sparky Woods was hired and Jimmy Satterfield said in the state newspaper the staff that wanted the job most got it because King Dixon was such a cheapskate that when Sparky Woods and his staff came to South Carolina, they all got paid the same thing they were making at Appalachian State. All right, you want to talk about fiascos? I've seen fiascos. This was not a fiasco. Was it a well-run search? Only until they got punched in the mouth. And, you know, look, you want to talk about the lack of marketing, the lack of support. I mean, it's no secret Ray Tanner and Frank Martin, it was like oil and water. They did not get along. They each said good things publicly to keep public, you know, just to save face publicly. But it was not a marriage made in heaven. And, you know, I would remind everybody that bitched and moaned and screamed for Frank Martin's head the last 3 years. He's gone now. And you've got a guy that has been very successful and is a damn good coach that's coming in. Give the guy a chance. I think all the vitriol, the let's be Tennessee, you know, 2.0 with Tennessee's football search, they were going to hire Greg Schiano, and then they wound up with Jeremy Pruitt. How'd that work out for you?
It didn't work.
Blame the process. Okay, a lot of people were never going to be happy if it wasn't Sean Miller. And then Matt McMahon. And look, hey, those were my top two choices. No doubt about it. But I think there's been a lot of bad feelings in the African-American community towards the University of South Carolina. I'm talking about just in the city of Columbia. Okay, for what has been perceived as a long time of, you know, not a lot of good things happening. By hiring Lamont Paris, I think that helps a lot of that. And I mean, I just don't get it. I think it's just a lot of anger, and because of the social media world and the message board world in which we live, where most people, you know, have anonymous, you know, anonymity behind, you know, their usernames. They can spew whatever they want to. And I just don't think it's a good look. But I also don't think it was a well-run search, especially since I think Ray Tanner's been ready to fire Frank Martin for at least 2 years.
So we got to this point, Keith, where we knew, I don't know what, guys, maybe 48 hours ago or so, that it was basically down to Lamont Paris. And by the way, Darren, I'm going to do this from time to time, and you have got to stop me when I do. I'm going to say Lamont Harris again at some point. And I know his name, but it's just how it is. So it got to Lamont Paris, Keith, and BJ, and I mentioned it. By the way, anybody that missed the Gene Henley interview at 12:30, you probably want to go listen to that. If you want to learn about Lamont Paris, go listen to that. He was brutally honest, and
he was good.
It's not going to be. He's not zazzing up everybody. He's just telling you what he's been around for the last few years with Lamont Paris. But it got down to these two guys, seemingly, Keith, and I mentioned it to Darren earlier. You've got a couple of generations of former players now who it's going to be a little uncomfortable for a while. That's the way it's going to be perceived on the outside because we don't know anything else. But you had so many guys who were, once it got serious, like, wait a second, BJ might actually be able to get this thing. Of course, they're going to support BJ Mackey. That's their guy. They played with him. They love him. And then you have so many guys that played under Frank who clearly are supporting Frank Barton, although they're probably supporting the program. Yeah, hey, look, we love Frank. So there are two generations of basketball players who are going to have to find a way to come together to support Lamont Paris. With that being said, in your mind, as we watch this search come down to the final two candidates of BJ and Lamont, what were the differences from your perspective?
Well, my good friend Colin Taylor from Gamecock Central, I think, reported last night that they wanted a guy that was an established head coach. And that's what they got. I think they wanted a head coach that also had Power 5 recruiting and coaching experience. And I think when you look at South Carolina and you look at Wisconsin, like I started out with, there's a lot of parallels there. Okay. You're not the top brand in your conference. But hey, Wisconsin went to back-to-back Final Fours. I mean, they played for all the marbles, okay, with Frank Kaminsky and those guys that evidently Lamont Paris played a key role into getting a lot of those guys to Wisconsin. And when he left to take the Chattanooga job, he had a kid committed by the name of Tyler Hero, who wound up going to Kentucky that is an unbelievable three-point shooter, okay? And look, he started out at UT Chattanooga trying to win the Wisconsin way, and it was not working, and he had to evolve. And so he evolved. He hit the portal. He got some other guys. He changed the way they played offense. He changed some of the way they played defense. He's not Bo Ryan 2.0. Okay. He's not going to run the pack line defense. He's not going to run the mover blocker offense. All good coaches have to fit their system to their personnel, and that's what Lamont Paris did at Chattanooga. I did misspeak. He did not tie the record for wins that was set by Matt McCall, which was 27. They were 24-7 this past year. But for me, I think whether I could have got behind BJ Mackey, I'm behind Lamont Paris.
Yeah.
But I think their staff is going to be critical.
Right.
Like, I don't think, for me, it's not going to do it if he just says, I'm just bringing everybody with me from UT Chattanooga. To me, that's not going to cut it. Okay?
I agree.
The SEC is shark-infested waters, and if you're going to swim with sharks, you got to have sharks. And so, to me, he's got to bring 1, 2 at least guys that really understand the SEC, that really understand recruiting in his footprint geographically. Now, he has been resourceful in the transfer portal, and there's already been a lot of speculation they may bring their leading scorer could transfer in with him. That's a 20-point-a-night guy in the Southern Conference.
Player of the year in the league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Look, I mean, I'm being Captain Obvious here. Okay. There's 3 things right off the bat he's got to do. 1, you got to recruit your own roster.
Yep.
Okay. He's got to meet with those players, have a vision for them, ask them to give him a chance to not get in the portal, to, hey, let's go through workouts. Let's build a relationship. Let's see how it is. And then if you're not satisfied, by all means, look for another opportunity. So he's got to do that. Number 2, immediately the first phone call's got to be to Julian Phillips.
That's the transfer from LSU.
Well, he's not a transfer. He is a guy that signed in the fall with LSU. He is a class of 2022 who's from Blythewood. He played at Blythewood. Then he transferred to, I believe, the same prep school where Mike Coatsar came from. I may be mistaken on that. That's a guy that I've heard would be open to playing at home. Maybe that year away from Columbia made him understand the importance of home. It did for Kevin Garnett. I mean, you asked Eddie Fogler, you asked Jeff Lebo, you asked Rick Callahan. If Kevin Garnett would have made his SAT on time, he would have signed with South Carolina because he was in Chicago and he missed home. And so he's got to do that. And then he needs to have a sit down as soon as possible with the high school coaches, the AAU coaches in Columbia and the surrounding areas, and sell them on his vision and, why their players should stay home and play for him. Those are the top 3 things for any new coach at any destination. Those are the things you have to do, and in that order, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I really do, Keith. Just for clarity here, because I know somebody's going to ask about it, and they have been asking about it. You mentioned Julian Phillips, but you did not mention G.G. Jackson.
Well, I'd say he would be next.
Okay.
Right? I mean, those guys are connected. I think, Julian Phillips, he is released from his letter of intent. He's looking for a new home immediately. G.G. Jackson is technically still in the class of 2023.
Right.
Okay. He could reclassify. I think there's a 90% chance that he would have reclassified and signed with South Carolina if Frank Martin would have been retained. I had John Whittle on my podcast on Friday. He said, and nobody is closer to that situation than John Whittle. At no point has G.G. Jackson been committed to South Carolina. He was not a silent commitment. But, things were heading in that direction. And so to me, absolutely, maybe you get both families, both young men on your campus at the same time, and to talk to them about how they could immediately impact and change the trajectory of your program, and sell them on all the success you had at Wisconsin with guys just like them that went on to play in the NBA.
So we just a little while ago spoke with Gene Henley from Chattanooga, who has covered Lamont Paris for the last few years. By the way, Darren, great question about Tennessee. That was great. I just think it helped bring it full circle. He mentioned, look, this cat is not going to win the press conference. He said, trust me. He said 3 times in the interview, he is not going to win the press conference. So what type of reaction will that create? A chain reaction almost. People are going to watch this, Keith, probably coming up Thursday or Friday of this week. They're going to see his press conference. It's not going to be B.J. Mackey. It's not going to be McMahon or Sean Miller. All these guys are going to be really zazzy up there. It's not going to be any of that. It's going to be cut and dry, pretty to the point, monotone type stuff, and then let's get to work. So what do you think that's going to stir up from the fan base as they see that unfold?
Well, I would hope that the fan base would get behind Coach Paris and give him a chance, number one. Look, he's not going to be the most popular hire because he's not Sean Miller. He's not Matt McMahon. That's who a lot of people wanted to be the next head coach at South Carolina. I mean, with Lamont Paris, what does the press conference mean? Darren Horn won the press conference.
Sure. Did.
Will Muschamp won the press conference, and his first 2 years, were really good. And then, injuries piled up, poor decisions on promoting from within wrecked that program and the culture of that program. And so, to me, it's not the press conference so much as what does your first team look like? Are you able to get any traction in recruiting? Are you able to show any hope? But I also think that, just like you guys said, the University of South Carolina, starting with Ray Tanner or whoever's the athletic director next fall, they need to give this guy every chance to succeed from a facility standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, from a monetary standpoint. They need to get behind their coach. And that was not the case. I mean, look, could South Carolina have scheduled somebody better than Erskine or Western Michigan or whoever it was to unveil the Final Four banner? Sure. But there also could have been a lot better marketing campaign behind that. Okay. I was in Columbia the weekend. We took Addison to her first Gamecock football game. The Gamecocks played Florida. I believe it was November the 10th. It was that Friday night. South Carolina's women played Alabama State. Okay, not Alabama, Alabama State, who Bianca Jackson, who was a freshman, her mother was the head coach. And there were over 13,000 people in the stands for that. And they unveiled the national championship banner. I got pictures of it. And it was great. But it wasn't 18,000. It wasn't the same, like if, they were unveiling it against UConn or back then Mississippi State or somebody like that. But I mean, I still remember that year, guys, the basketball media guides didn't even get shipped out until February after they went to the Final Four.
Right.
That's inexcusable. Okay. Just like, look, the search, to have had as much time as you had for that search and to do as much vetting as you did for that search. It was not a well-run search, and people should be held accountable. And in my opinion, the next athletic director at the University of South Carolina should not come from within the University of South Carolina. That's my opinion. South Carolina needs to go outside of the culture of the board of trustees, of everything that's been created within the athletics administration, and they need a reset. They need to bring in a guy with the gravitas of a Mike McGee or somebody like that. That's just my opinion.
Keith, we're starting to kind of wind it down. I know Darren's got to get out of here right at 2:00 today to go pick his daughter up from school. But I asked Gene this earlier. This question is more appropriate for you because you cover the South Carolina basketball program. And I'm sure that there's multiple answers because we're not going to, once he gets in the door, we got to see what happens with the current roster first. But what type of success do you expect, and in what type of timeline correlates with that success? Does that question make sense? I mean, do you they won 18 games this year, Keith. And again, it's all going to depend on players. I understand that. You've already mentioned meeting with some of the elite guys out there, but we got to feel like there's going to be some attrition, and it's going to be a new system, and there's going to be some adjusting. So there's probably some offsetting factors in there. So what type of success do you anticipate, and in what timeline do you anticipate seeing?
I mean, I really don't know. I really don't have any idea because we don't know what the roster is going to look like. I mean, look, when Darren Horn was fired and South Carolina hired Frank Martin, I didn't expect guys that were playing for Darren Horn to not want to play for a coach that had gone to Sweet 16s and Elite 8s at Kansas State that came in with the reputation that Frank Martin did. But yet most all of those guys, DeMontre Harris went to Florida. I don't think he ever played.
Did he get kicked off the team down there? He got in trouble.
Yeah. There was another kid who was really good who transferred to Virginia, and he had a really good
Anthony
career up there. Gill.
He was real good.
And so, yeah, he was.
Son of a.
So, what happens with Devin Carter? What happens with Josh Gray? What happens with Wilden Zlevek? What happens with, Taquan, I don't know if I said Taquan Woodley, maybe. What happens with, Wright, the point guard? What happens with, does he go to Baltimore and try to secure Bryce Lindsey as part of that recruiting class? Is he able to get Julian Phillips? What's he able to bring from the transfer portal to South Carolina in year one? I mean, the way rosters turn over, quite frankly, as of March 22nd, my expectations are not going to be that high because a lot of Frank's guys, they may all bail because it's not Frank. I don't know.
Is there a team in the league now in the SEC that resembles what Lamont Paris is going to be bringing to South Carolina, that style of play?
No, I mean, we don't know what style of play he's going to bring because he's evolved, and just because he had the personnel to do one thing this past year because of all those transfers at UT Chattanooga doesn't mean that that's what South Carolina's offense and defensive systems will look like next year. I mean, I want to hear what his vision is for the program at South Carolina, for the type of system he wants to run, for the type of people he's looking to bring into his program, and then how he goes about doing it.
To answer your question, I don't think there's a team in the SEC, and I'm verifying this now, that played nearly as slow as he would ideally like to play, if ideally is Wisconsin and how Chattanooga was this year. Now, they were super efficient, so it looked good in winning games, but tempo-wise, the SEC is more of a fast-paced league.
I mean, look, when Frank Martin came from Kansas State, he was a slow, methodical type offense as well, and then he evolved. In South Carolina, over the past 3+ years, was probably in the top 3 in the SEC, top 3 to 4 in pace of play, as far as being the fastest pace of play teams in the SEC.
They were certainly fast. Sometimes you didn't really know where they were running to, but they were out there flying around. That's for sure. Oh, crap. There's 3 guys around me. What do I do now? I don't know. Pass it?
Throw it in the stands. Do that.
I mean, look, when Dawn Staley came to South Carolina, her offenses certainly didn't look like they looked when she had Tiffany Mitchell and Asia Wilson and Elena Coates on the floor at the same time, or in 2020 with Ty Harris and Kiki Herbert Harrigan and, freshman Aaliyah Boston and Zia Cook and that group.
Yeah, they don't look good right now, Keith. They might want to try to shoot it a little bit better, or they ain't going to the Final Four.
Yeah, I mean, Dawn Staley said, Camila Cardoso needed to pack what she brought to that Miami game for the trip to Greensboro, they better pack more offense if they want to win. Look, defense wins championships, but it's still you got to outscore your opponent.
You're right. You know what's coming when they get
South Carolina. Like Coach Staley said, like I thought to me Friday against Howard was more worrisome simply because they just missed a ton of wide open shots like you would take in shoot around. They had a lot of good shots on Sunday. I mean, Aaliyah Boston hadn't gone 4 for 14 since December the 3rd of 2020 when everybody on that team looked like a brick mason when they lost at home to NC State, and they still won by double digits. So Aaliyah Boston's not going 4 for 14 this Friday against North Carolina.
I agree.
It's not going to happen. But North Carolina is playing well. They have a lot of confidence. They'll probably, bring their share of fans. South Carolina's defense has been elite, though, and I can tell you this, what North Carolina saw last night in Arizona was nothing compared to the defense and the athleticism that they will face in waves, in droves, when they play South Carolina Friday night in Greensboro.
Well said. Keith, we got to let you run on that note. I know that you're we are all out of time now, but I know that you're covering both sides of hoops throughout the week with the women now in the Sweet 16 and the men hiring Lamont Paris. I'm sure the Locked On the Gamecocks podcast will be, as always, very well listened to. Thank you. Great stuff. Great perspective on this. Excited to continue to discuss it in the future. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you. You guys have a great rest of the week.
Yes, sir. There you go. Keith Allsep, the host of the Locked On the Gamecocks podcast. I'd tune in because he's going to have a wonderful week discussing Carolina hoops. A lot going on the hardwood for the Garnet and Black. Thanks to him and Gene Henley with the Chattanooga Times Free Press. Right?
Yeah, you got it.
All right. JC's here tomorrow. He's been on it from the get. He literally, Keith is dead on. He said Lamont Paris weeks ago. He was right. I hate giving that guy credit, but he deserves it. I'm just kidding. We love you, JC. We love you, even in Chicago. All right, have a wonderful Tuesday. Terrific Tuesday afternoon. If you're headed out for a drink somewhere, the Dog and Duck. Where else are you going to go? That's where I'm going. That's where Darren's definitely going. And we'll be back tomorrow at noon. We look forward to seeing you there. Then, thanks to Darren.
Thank you.
This has been the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.